Alright, welcome everyone to Vosto Vlad YouTube channel. Today I have a guest. It's first time I have a guest here, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the world of comics. And yes, you've seen a cat right there purring on the microphone. Best way to start a show. I have here my friend Vonster, who is a writer of comics and other things. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. It's been a long time coming. We wanted to do this forever, maybe.
Yeah, we've been trying to hook up and talk and make something together. But it's crazy. It's crazy with the time zones and all. But now that it's amazing because we just synchronized. Like I asked you yesterday or something, and it's and
the moon's aligned.
Yeah, all that nonsense. But the reason I wanted to get you on my channel is a little bit alternative channel. It's a little bit on the conspiracy side of things. I analyze the world through this lens, and I see all kinds of agendas being pushed forward, and I suppose this is what you guys in your movement did, which is called Comics Gate, and you guys spotted agendas being pushed forward in entertainment and in the things that you guys are really passionate about. And so maybe a lot of people don't know even that Comics Gate exists. So maybe you can, I think you are a good spokesperson for it because your comic book project is very successful, and we will talk about it soon. But if you can introduce to my audience what is Comics Gate and all that.
Yeah. So some years back, maybe going on 3 years now, is kind of when things exploded with it. But basically, over the years since maybe around 2012, comics and storytelling started shifting in a new direction, a more political, more ideologically driven direction. And it just kind of started going that way. And then the way they started hiring people for Marvel and DC started going in that direction too, which meant people who hadn't even written comics before were being hired based off their identity and representation and diversity became the most valuable things to show in our arts and in our media, and story and character and all the things that kept us coming back to buy the comics was thrown out for a lot of it, and sales went down. And here's the thing: with this ideology that marched into comics came an attitude. That attitude is, we are fighting you for power, and you're an oppressor and we're oppressed, so screw you. So what happened was these new pros, who are also very political minded, started attacking fans. Suddenly fans are in the wrong, and the pros are telling you, don't buy my book if you don't like it. If you don't like my politics, you don't need to buy my stuff. But they have no reverence for the material. That's what part of what comics is. These characters have been beloved by these fans for decades upon decades, and now they're being, given speeches by Thor about the evils of toxic masculinity and stuff like that. All these far left lunatic ideas are killing our arts, they're killing expression, they're killing our stories, and they're ruining characters for people. In an era when Marvel movies are making billions of dollars at the box office, comic book sales are plummeting because you see the movie, you like the character, you go into the shop, you ask to get a Thor comic, and they're like, yeah, well, Thor's a woman now, and it's over there. And she's going to give you some nice lectures about how, the evils of being a man or whatever. And it just alienated fans. It divides people. All this ideology is actually designed to divide you while having a nice little label attached that sounds good. It's all about packaging for these people. They're good at it. They're clever at that, at least. Everything else is just destruction. Anyway, so people spoke out against it, and it blew up online, and it became a hashtag. And more than a hashtag, more than us just criticizing and mocking this destruction of our culture and our art, because that's the attitude, man, is make art our way or you're a white supremacist. That's what happens when radicalism tries to turn your art into like a gray paste to please everybody and include everyone. So anyway, we speak out. It ends up they call us Comicsgate mockingly. We end up taking it on as a badge of honor. And since then, it's evolved into a bunch of amazing indie artists making comics for fans that feel like they have nothing on the shelves left for them, making our own content, entertaining people online in YouTube. And it's just been amazing, man. And I got in on it, starting off just criticizing what they were doing to our art and culture, these activists who have no place in our arts, and dude, I got to tell you, I've been making comics for years, so I released mine. I did really well with Monster MD. It's my first publishing effort. I just finished shipping all of it. We're almost to 100K, so everything. It's been awesome. It's been. I'm meeting some of the coolest artists. I'm working with artists I never thought I'd work with that I've been reading since I was a little boy in comics. It's incredible, man. This is an incredible time in indie comics, and I think Comicsgate is kind of where it's at in terms of making being part of what's new and interesting and full of energy in comics and indie.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with it. I resonate with everything you've said so far, and with how the movement applies itself. Is it by actually making constructive things and not just criticizing or what these people say, harassing or that kind of area, but instead coming up with better products on the market and then proving that you can have really nice projects, like how you said with your comic book project hits on an indie crowdfunded sort of planning. You are reaching $100,000 with that, so that's really cool, and I think it motivates you as well as the people who you work with, and more things are to come. More things are to come because it's proving that you guys are winning. I've seen something similar in the gaming area, the gaming department with Gamergate. However, I didn't see anything on the constructive side of things, such as creating games that contradict the agenda, and I see, like you are saying, that comics, really nice comics books that you guys make are selling, which they are. But for example, in games, sadly, it's not like in comic books where you had, a lot of nerds with their favorite characters and a lot of people who like artwork and stuff who are, really interested and passionate about it. In games, for example, it's casual people. Your grandmother is playing video games now because they streamline the games to the point where young I don't know, anyone can play it. I don't want to be offensive to any group that I'm mentioning that is playing games, but I come from an area in the late 90s and early 2000s. That's when I was heavy into video games, and that's just the way it was. It was like mostly dudes. You had the tomboy girl. Tom girls are awesome, by the way. Who could stand our way of talking and the way we interacted in the chat rooms, in the video games, and all that crazy stuff. And we could have a beer, and at first it was in the internet cafes. We would play in the internet cafes. It was all a social thing, and you see how it all plays in together. Now everyone is separated. Everyone is separated into their own boxes, and they want to sell this new type of reality that is not even real. And people are just supposed to take it, even if it doesn't apply in reality. When people go outside and interact, it's nothing like that.
And it sucks because these activist people, their belief system won't let them accept reality. It just won't. Like it's you're barking up the wrong tree if you think you're going to convince them. But they bring this belief that they're oppressed and everyone's out to keep them down, and they have to fight into whatever they bring. So that's what ends up happening, man. That's why they attack fans. That's why we have all this division. They brought it in, and they claimed it's the fans are the problem. We don't have a fan problem. We have an activist problem. That's what I keep telling people. I think all people on the left or the right both need to come together and be like, yeah, you're right. This is killing our art. This is not turning art into propaganda is not helpful. But sadly, a lot of artists drink the Kool-Aid these days, and they believe it. They're actually people who work in entertainment who advocate for removing the entertainment from entertainment. And it blows my mind.
So they don't want to have bread on their tables, basically.
Well, if it's for the cause, it's going to make the world a better place. Their college professor promised them that's what.
And exactly, yeah, they teach this anti-human stuff. Like that's also part of the propaganda in the world now and in education. Everyone is just bad and overpopulated, and we all just need to die.
Yeah. There's no saving us. We can't save the world, so we might as well die too. It's like, okay, you guys are nuts. It's really out in the open now, and you're seeing people like J. Scott Campbell, of all people, a big name in comics, a beloved artist with a huge following, saying, well, you guys want to fix my art to be politically correct. Well, I'm going to show you, what's up when it comes to why we do what we do in comic art. And he almost gave a lesson in art to this like rando SJW had kind of messed up his piece. But it was great, and everyone freaked out about it because he defied their political leanings and their belief system by doing that. He showed that what they're advocating for is patently ridiculous and doesn't really work in comics. And that was great to see a big name do that recently. That was kind of awesome.
Are there any other big names that you want to mention that are part of the or this name that you are mentioning is part of CG, or is not part of CG, but kind of is in the right mindset?
It's right. He's just an artist who understands how it works. I mean, why they create the art they create. He's a consummate professional and beloved in the industry. So, but no, he's not CG it or anything. But these are big names who are beginning to come out and say something, which I think is great. It makes a difference. It really does. That you have to protect yourselves as artists because these people are here to curb your expression. It has to be their way or the highway. I don't see why they think they're the good guys, but that's how they're doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're very selfish. Like, for example, in the gaming industry, when you look back, like this is all old stuff we're talking about. Like it's been happening for like the last 10 years maybe, and I've noticed it for maybe about 5 to 6 years that it's happening. But it's the same. It's like people who never played a video game in their life, like Anita Sarkeesian, the most famous example, comes to teach people about video games and what they are supposed to have in the video games and what consumers should demand from video games. And she used even forged gameplay material. She said that she did research, but uses footage from other gamers that she ripped off of YouTube and makes hundreds of thousands of dollars from feminists who want to donate to her cause of the gamer crusade. And like her, there are others. I don't spend all my time researching about these people, but I know they are there and I see their influences. And sometimes I expose the propaganda myself. Like I have an episode that's at about over 100,000 views or something, where I talk about the agendas being pushed in the Wolfenstein 2 video game. That's from the perspective of someone who actually played Return to Castle Wolfenstein and those old Wolfenstein games that had substance, and they didn't have just hours of cinematics trying to make you see Blazkowicz, General Blazkowicz, which is the main character in that video game, as this like they're trying too hard to not make him look toxic masculine in that game. So they're making him a bit weaker. They're making him, kind of just cry on the shoulders of some woman and not being able to take it anymore and stuff like that. And then there's a scene with like woman empowerment to the maximum. Like I think
I saw that. Yeah.
There's a pregnant woman, right? With her boobs out, and then wielding 2 machine guns, like
screaming,
shooting up,
shaken baby syndrome.
And the recoil physics makes no sense. And you know, that's how they empower women, I guess.
And in her belly button, there was just an Uzi, right? And the baby's just back there.
Yeah, that's coming on the next one for sure. But there's other stuff there. There's other stuff there. Like there's a black woman there who is the leader of the resistance or something, and she's like this Black Panther type. But
that's an intense character. She looks like a racial stereotype more than like a good character. That was creepy.
Yeah, it's like
creep me out.
If you're trying to make it inclusive, at least don't stereotype, right? I mean, they did the same things in the Ghostbusters
every
movie.
line that came out of her mouth was like a blaxploitation film stereotype. Now, I'm not offended by that. I actually like blaxploitation films, but like it's not they're claiming to be progressive with this, and I just gotta tell you,
it seemed very out of place. I can give more examples. They tried to make Blazkowicz's father look like white male, racist, misogynistic, homophobic, all those things together, and they even made his father take Blazkowicz as a kid and shoot his dog. You know, they took Blazkowicz. He took Blazkowicz and said, "You want to learn a lesson, boy? I'm gonna make you shoot him, boy." You know? And it was like too much and trying too hard, you know? And then
and what do they really think I'm gonna like play these games and be like, "Oh, yeah, don't be homophobic, bro. Wolfenstein 2 taught me that." Like, no one's ever gonna say that in the history of humanity. Like, stop giving us like moral lessons that we all already know and, you know, adhere. Like, nobody's doing, like, we're not going. They all believe that all these groups are under attack because they've been lied to, and like, you're fine, chill the hell out. Let's shoot Nazis together in Wolfenstein and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I buy it.
A lot of people commented in my video saying that, you just don't like this game because it's against shooting Nazis and you're a Nazi. You know?
Oh god, everyone's a Nazi.
It's like man, I made a long video with arguments. Why do you not want to watch it? It's not just about shooting Nazis. I even said in the video itself I'm a great fan of Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which goes straight to the point, kick ass, kill the Nazis, and it actually has a serious vibe to it. Like you feel you're in the you know, in this war type atmosphere that's really cool, and you really do feel like someone infiltrating and having missions, and it's really realistic.
I'm old enough to where like my first shooter was Wolfenstein, the original
3D Wolfenstein 3D
on the discs. Wolfenstein 3D. It was awesome. I loved that game. And then I did, and then I've been getting all the Wolfensteins, or most of them, ever since, and I couldn't do 2, man.
Getting dumber and dumber.
I stopped playing in the middle of 2, I think.
Yeah, because after 2, what do you got next? You got Blazkowicz having 2 twin daughters or something, and then they become the main characters, and you play as these 2 teenage characters.
Like girl power,
wielding
like
big guns and
cutouts. Yeah, it's bad. Did you
with
know
really
that
bad jokes?
I was kind of part of the Gamergate thing. Did you know that?
I don't know. I didn't know that.
I had this slightly younger hipster friend when I lived in Chicago. He invited me to a college lecture on video games. I was like, I assumed it was going to be about art, game design, game theory. Cool. Like, I'm a nerd for that. I'm an art history nerd. That's like kind of my background in a lot of things. And I love video games. I love the art of video games. I have a lot of video game art books back here. Anyway, that's not what it was at all. It was like a little political rally for SJWs only. It was being put on by all women, really angry, pissed off women, and each one did a different topic, and all the topics like blew my mind. And the things they said were genuinely creepy. And everyone around me were younger dudes than me. More college aged, obviously. I mean, it was at a college lecture, and I'm looking at them as they take notes and nod their heads, and I'm just going, "This is wrong." Like the first chick that went up there, just basically her speech was, "There's just too many white men in gaming. There's just too many of them." There's too many of us working in gaming, and we need to start being pushed out. And then the next one was like, freedom of speech is a problem. And that creeped me out. That sent a shiver down my spine. And I was like, this chick's nuts. And she was talking about online harassment and how we have to go after the harassers, but freedom of speech is in our way. And I was just like, oh, what is going on in gaming? This is the first time I'd ever heard of any of this stuff. And then the next one was a lady who gets paid good money to make shitty flash games that teach kids how they ought to behave in terms of like progressivism. So, and those are then sold to schools around America to indoctrinate the kids. And then someone in front of me said, yeah, get them while they're young, and like held up their fist. And I was like, ah, like vomiting. And then the last one was this this trans person who makes video games. And I'm like, sweet, finally an artist. Like, let's hear about the art. But they were like, I make games where no one wins. And I want to talk to you about microaggressions. And I was like, no. So I knew something was rotten in Denmark. So I go home, I get online, I discover Gamergate, I research the hell out of every like angle of it, trying to get to know what's going on. I see it for what it is. You know, I know the story. I could tell anyone the story in full detail. It's an amazing story. But I mean, that's like the first time I think we've had television where like they made episodes just attacking like fans of like a hobby. Like, remember they made like a Law and Order episode attacking gamers? That's how crazy Gamergate got, man. Anyway, but yeah, I got into it. I started communicating with people online about it, and that's how I found before it was Comicsgate, but that's when I started learning about what they were doing to comics. I already knew what they were doing to a point, but I had given up on like mainstream comics for a while, and I was collecting more indie stuff and making my own stuff. So yeah, man, I know about Gamergate. It's something else. It's I don't know. In a lot of ways, I still talk to people who keep it kind of carry the torch, you know, keep it going.
Yeah, well, I support the concept. I really like people who have the courage to go out publicly and risk their image, their whole life, to expose lies and to promote truth. And that's
truth is a virus.
That's what's happening, and it really takes a lot of courage. You know, there's some people who work in these companies who hate their days at work and know that they can't tell anything inside of those companies. You know, they have like these meetings, like group meetings, especially now with the COVID stuff, and everyone in the meetings is like talking from like this super leftist perspective and all this stuff. Not that I'm much of a right-wing guy, but I definitely don't support that. I think the leftist wing is kind of exaggerating, and they are the ones who are destroying more in the world right now. Like, I wouldn't.
The pendulum swings, yes.
Yeah, so that's why I am showing it more, in case there are people wondering why I am it seems like I am obsessed about attacking them or something. It's because they do the most malicious things, and they do things that eventually get in laws, and they get in government, and government has a lot of control, and these people support government control, and it all comes together very nicely to the point where your independent person is getting attacked, and you don't even know it, and you have a job, and you can't say your opinion at the job, and you hate your days and don't know where to go to eat bread. And in Comicsgate, it's really nice because you have this movement where people can take refuge from the mainstream control grid, I would call it. You know, it's really depressive to be in there. And imagine if you worked for Marvel as a writer right now, and all you would hear in those group calls were how to promote diversity, how to remove white characters from your book, how to
kill the fun.
Like, okay,
remove sexism.
We understand the diversity concept, and it's okay to have multiple characters, but it's up to the freedom of the writer. That's how I see it, you know. So it gets to the point where, that's what I say in my videos, that diversity ends up being exclusion of the white male character. I don't know if that's racist, but I can't hear you anymore, by the way.
Oh,
you are muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so here's the thing. Diversity is just a nice name for discrimination, and the idea is that if we discriminate against white people now, it's going to make up for the past. That's literally the idea. It's like a child came up with this or something, and it of course doesn't work. It just divides us. It creates fighting. It creates needless conflict, and that's that. The weirdest thing about them is I'm a child of the '80s. I grew up with truly diverse television, not their version of diversity. Their version's this crazy political, like our way or the highway, push white men out of everything. Diversity. I'm talking about like real representative of the different people of America. I grew up with that, and then I get told that isn't good enough to the point where like it's everything I see is so it's not just it's not really diverse. It's actually all looks the same. It's all been homogenized to look like something else. The attitude is you guys had your fun. It's our turn. You left us out. We're getting it's kind of got a vengefulness to it.
There's definitely a lot of hate in it.
Comics, my question is where were us bigots in comics back when we were all reading X-Men, which is like every person, every nationality, at some point probably passes through the stories of X-Men. And I grew up reading them. Nobody ever had a problem with that. And great female or women in comics have been writing since the 30s and doing great. And none of us had any complaints. It was when these people showed up and they claim we attack them for their identities. That's what they're obsessed with. It's what they fetishize all day. We don't care about your identity. Like, we don't like what you do. We don't like your actions. Your actions cause real damage. I know you've been told if you do this, it's going to make the world this great utopia or whatever, but it really doesn't. They've been lied to, and they think they're creating heaven on earth. How do you convince them they're not? You tell them they're not, and then they just reaffirm their own belief system and their own bias. They go, oh, another bigot, another bigot trying to keep me out, keep me down. It sucks, man. They're just hurting what a lot of different great artists have built up into these billion-dollar movie franchises. And their version of diversity is disgusting. It's like something a mom thought up. You know what I mean? It's like it's not fun.
Not
cool.
my mom.
Cutting edge.
I can tell you that. Mom. I can tell you that. Not my mom.
Good. But the fun is gone. They're removing entertainment in the name of politics and hoping we'll still be entertained by the fact that there's a diverse group of people. That doesn't really pump my nads. I like creative, clever shit. That's why I read comics.
If we're going to talk about the subject of powerful women, like you said, there are great women writers throughout the history of comic books, which I don't know because I am not really a comic book nerd, but I'm starting to get into it because I met you guys, and it's really nice. It's like a very good vibe I get in, and I really like it. But on the subject of powerful women, I do want to give the example of my mother. It will probably sound lame, but that's just how it is. It's like,
lay it down.
Look, so my mother grew up in like communist Romania, full on force. They would tell you what to do, where to go to get education, what factory to go, all this stuff. Put on the uniforms on you all the time, like everyone collectivized mentality all over the place. Actually, it was some creativity allowed in the education, but once you got to the getting a job aspect, you weren't allowed to be creative anymore. So my mother was an engineer, and she always had to work her ass off, just like everybody else. There was no special treatment for anyone, just like there is no special treatment now. But you just gotta work your ass off to prove yourself. And she proved herself in the communist regime, and she proved herself in the so-called capitalist regime, which is not fully capitalist here in Romania. It's like some post-Soviet mafia, but it's more freedom. At least I can go on streets with beard and hair long without people yelling Satanist at me. Well, that's what it did happen like 15 years ago, but people have changed since then. So yeah, she ended up having a position of leadership in the city hall of the town where I live. So
cool.
Not becoming the mayor, but like just under, like the wise guy, like how you have the you know, in the stories you have the Merlin to King Arthur or whatever. You know, she was the wisdom in a position of power, and she went there with strength, you know, and that's what these people should be doing, and not in an invasive way, like, because a lot of the times I see women who see themselves in position of power to take advantage of it and prove that I can be just like a man, and it all becomes about that, and then they start bullying even though they claim that they are the oppressed ones. And that's what I see, for example, with the CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, or whatever her name is pronounced. Sorry about that. But, you know, she's over there in a position of power since 2014. And I noticed that since about 2014-15, they started to do all these hate speech rules on YouTube and more advertiser-friendly content and all this crap and demonetizations for all this. I'm not saying it's all her fault, but who knows? Like, if they make conspiracies about this patriarchy who destroys everything, or like this how complain about entertainment being all this patriarchy, even though it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know, I can complain about a woman in position of power who is in control of the biggest places where people hang out on the internet, and a place that has gone to shit. So how about that?
Ring a ding ding. That's right. Women can be pieces of crap too, guys.
I mean, all that crap with like man interrupting and whatnot, like that. Come on, man. There's plenty of women interrupting. How can you come up with terminologies like that? Like, this makes no sense.
People I've worked with in offices will use mansplaining all the time, and they love it. They giggle. I actually don't have that job anymore. I got
now you have your own job.
I make comics, but I got removed from that one for my politics for sure. So that was something else. That was a little life changing.
It's really sad that then all these gender studies people, because they study this in the universities, end up in the departments of companies that are in entertainment, who have to get these people, because they are also bullied into hiring these people. They are bullied into hiring the gender studies people in their human relations departments. So then they have to follow the rules that these people will write for the company. And they will push all these social justice, feminist issues, and the diversity stuff to the point.
And that means they're paying someone to curb their own expression.
And in some cases, get woke, go broke, and everyone loses the jobs in the end, including the HR department people. But
yeah,
it's not always like that, though. I like to joke about this, but it's not always like that because, for example, there have been scandals in like the AAA game industry. Like, you know, everyone complained when they saw the trailer of the main character woman who was in Battlefield 5 with crippled hand in World War II, which didn't make sense historically. But and there were a ton of dislikes. There were a lot of dislikes on the trailer itself. There are more dislikes than likes. But that only was felt again on the YouTube community and the reviewer community or whatnot, but not the official reviewer community, because that's all been bought off by the SJWs. But you know, just people on the internet. That's why they want to ban dislikes now, so that you can't hurt anyone's feelings with your dislikes.
Oh yeah, I feel proud to have been part of this like brief moment in our history where we would go to like a trailer we hated and let them know. And now they're like, no, and they just call YouTube and ask them to remove that or change it, and they do, right? Same thing with Rotten Tomatoes. Like, and it's called review bombing, but really like people are we're trying to let people know we don't like it. And they're acting like there's something wrong with that. Like, no, take this garbage. It's good for you. No. We didn't need female Ghostbusters, man. Nobody needed that. Women don't need that. Women don't need to see themselves on screen performing acts to realize they can achieve shit in life. That's insane. Like,
No.
women are powerful on their own. Okay,
My girlfriend confirmed that, she agrees with all this stuff. She, like, man, if you want to make your own comics, make your own characters, make your own.
She does.
And yeah, exactly, she does. And other, like, I'm talking about all these activists. If they want to make some comic book with their characters, they can make it. They have the freedom to do so.
Yeah.
Why
and
do
if it catches on?
Do I look like someone who would want to represent all those people they want me to represent? I don't think I look like that. And why do I have to do it? Like, why is it mandatory for me to celebrate it? Like, why even saying you disagree with something? Because I disagree with some things in society. Like, I can't disagree. Like, what's the problem? Why do I have to hide myself?
This is a mad dash.
This is dangerous, because then you really get the extremes, and you really will get the neo-Nazis that you are so afraid of. You will get them in bigger quantities because they can hide and they can plan all this crap with. At least if you want to have a chance, let me talk, let me debate, and not force stuff upon me, because that's whatever. I can. It's just crazy, man. We don't have as much in Romania right now. If there's someone out there wondering why a guy living in Romania in the woods cares about this stuff, it's because I have a lot of free time and no, I don't got shit to do. No, it's not just that. But I'm worried. I'm worried about the future. I'm worried about the families. I'm worried about the education. What education will the future generations have? And I see all this stuff happening in education. Like, I know a clear case, but I don't want to talk about it right now, because if you talk about people who have disclosed you stuff from within the industry or from within working in education, or if you start talking about those cases and say who they are and stuff like that, you risk of them not getting a job in the future or being blacklisted. And I don't want to do something like that. But I can tell you, there's people working in education right now who can't stand a single day of this whole propaganda stuff, especially now with this virus stuff. Like, there's more need for animation education. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they do this really, really boring animation, and what started as creative companies doing creative content for education slowly got virused and plagued to the point where now they're really boring and non-creative, because being creative offends certain community. And you end up with boring characters, because they want to, like, they reach a point where they have to invent characters that look like Martians, because they can't draw humans anymore, because they're gonna be offensive. Man, I'm not even joking. I think even Alex Jones was right about some things, because we are heading in a world that is dehumanized, and there's gonna be these dehumanized transhumanist humans that will have nothing in common with humanity. It's gonna be like in that movie Equilibrium, where they're gonna say thinking itself can lead to hateful thoughts. So therefore, we must get rid of the thinking. We must ban words from dictionaries. Everything, man, everything. So
they said, like, men commits violence, so he makes laws against it. Women like to attack each other with words, so they try to censor words more than men usually do. Like, they try to make those certain words taboo.
I think there's some point in time when they're just gonna ban humans, because humans commit violence on the earth.
Well, that's something I'm concerned about, because when you make stories, here's what they're doing by making all this garbage art too that people aren't thinking about. In the future, I'm concerned because they're teaching artists that this is what good art is, when it's not good and it's being sapped of its humanity because they politicize everything in it. It's all about messaging. What message do we give to the children? Did we help the children? Did we tell them they were included? All this garbage, right? Like, we're teaching artists that that's where the value is in art, when really, we're forgetting. People can't draw well anymore. They can't tell stories worth a damn. In my film school, I was in film school back in 2007 through like 2009. Dude, nobody knew how to tell a story. And so we would make films that were perfectly competent in terms of aesthetics, great lighting, great cinematography, great, costuming, stuff like that, production design. Everything looks professional, except no one could write worth a damn. Like, stories are kind of the soul of humanity, I think. And it's like, I'm watching us lose it. And that's part of why I create and make the best stories I can, because I don't want us to lose that fire due to some stupid, sycophant, political-minded lunatics shaming us into creating only a certain rigid way that suits their narrow political spectrum. I want expression to be free, and these people are coming after that. There's no way they're in the right.
And budgets to be used wisely and not wasted on these things, which should matter less. So you're wasting the money that you could be using to better the story, like you say, and put more production time in the things that matter: the story, the atmosphere, the art in general. And again, I want to give example the video game industry, which right now, for example, I remember, I don't know if it's my nostalgia and just me being a teenager and I was fascinated by those stories or not, but look, if I play a new Assassin's Creed game, I think that it's more grinding. It's just grinding, and it's just boring side quests and the huge map. You have a huge map, but a meaningless map. Like, so much copy paste. Like, I remember. And so much focus on, we need to have gay characters. And we need to have sure,
you don't feel like you're part of it.
Look, you can have them. I don't care. But what I do care is budget being used in the correct area. So in the old Assassin's Creed, I feel the Ezio story was Ezio Auditore da Firenze was a really great story, man. Like, it was captivating, and it made me care about the hours I would spend in the video games. It looks like the video games just want you to spend more hours in video games, but by baiting you in, they notice that their game is shit, so they're gonna say, well, here's how I'm gonna keep you in with this grinding thing, and here's the loot boxes, and here's what you can buy to progress, to have a bigger progress in the game, and so you don't have to spend that many hours. And of course, there's a lot of people who will buy that, but a lot of people who won't buy that and who will play the hours of game anyway, because people don't have a backbone nowadays, and they're just satisfied with mediocre crap. That's why they still go to the cinema, even if the story is shit, just so that they can have something to do, because we're psychologically destroyed to such level that we get extremely bored. If you are alone, you feel like you're like, people get in depression, and they can't find something creative to do for themselves. I don't know, man, maybe I'm judging too harsh, but it feels like it's dumbed down games, dumbed down movies, dumbed down everything for a dumbed down generation. If you are saying that mainstream comic books are making less money, then that's a really good thing, and it's a hopeful thing. And what you guys are doing in Comics Gate is amazing, but again, I'm saying the comic book scene, it seems to me like it's a smarter scene than the other scenes. It's always been the alternative people who are more into it, but also the little kids. I remember I used to go with, like, I would walk around as a kid and I was like, I want that comic book, I want Batman, I want something, And like you say, when you were talking in the first part of this discussion, I was imagining that father who would go in a comic book store to get a gift for their little boy or little girl, uh, or but and then getting there and wanting to buy that Thor, and then well, it's just a woman Thor now, and then the guy can't even express that he finds that's weird because this is such a cancel culture where you can't even, so he can't just say to the guy, well, I wanted the man Thor. You can't do that.
Yeah, then you hate women.
So
that confirms their belief system.
So you look at the shells, at the rest of the shells, you see a bunch of, like you guys say, a bunch of boring characters that are diverse, but the story lacks any kind of meaning and diverse.
No character. They just represent X race, X gender, X sexuality. They're cardboard cutouts, and if they're advertisements.
I'm not saying every comic book story out there needs to be a meaningful experience. You can tell a wonderful story through just the arts, through just the atmosphere. With a nice painting, you can inspire many people. And it's the same in games, I've been playing recently. People ask me, why don't I expose games that much anymore? Well, because they're boring. I can't play them. I tried playing Cyberpunk 2077. Halfway through, I couldn't play anymore. I did the review with half the gameplay. It's all this content in. They have all this content, but it just ends up feeling lifeless. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's amazing.
But from a game, I play a game. I have right now on my Steam. I have the Stalker series made in some indie studio in Ukraine, and I get more atmosphere from that. And you don't even have a story, and there's because they don't have a big budget, the characters only say one-liners in text, and you have to read them. So it's it's not well written, but the way the level design is. And the way the weapons work and how the AI works, it's not the best AI. Sometimes it's really stupid. But the way it works is you are on your toes. You feel like it matters whether I go in that direction or in that direction. There's consequences for me. I can die. I can game over, man. It's just you get a screen with game over. It's game over. And now we live in the times of... instant gratification, like you were saying when you were saying about that person who was saying that that winning is bad. That's the mentality in modern games now. Everyone should be able to finish them. No one should feel like their IQ is smaller and they can't finish that level design. Right. But yeah, the atmosphere. So in that game, I just walk around through the bushes. I see these really cool anomalies because the actions happened in a post-apocalyptical Chernobyl zone, as if it exploded again and causes crazy radiations that scientists can't figure out what it is, and so there's all these anomalies. And the atmosphere really gets you, man. You walk and you have this detector, and if you accidentally get into an anomaly, you die. You get just disintegrated. And there's these beautiful factions that interact very well with each other. Even though they're not fully fleshed out, you feel them, that you care about them. In Cyberpunk 2077, I don't care about a single faction in that. Nothing. Because when I go around with my gun, that doesn't even matter because you have guns all over the place. And it's just like you switch guns like this. Because they want to satisfy that mentality of the little kid who, I want new colors. They treat the audience like little kids. No, I don't want a new gun every minute. I want a gun that I can fuse with and understand it and form a connection with. And, that breaks apart. And when it breaks apart, I want to repair it and all that stuff. And then when I shoot, I want to care about what I'm shooting at, about the plot, about the AI that is actually a really good AI. Remember Half-Life 2? Half-Life 2 had really good AI. If you would hide somewhere, they would try to flush you out with grenades. They would harass you. If you want to talk about harassment, play those games on harder difficulty, and you will find out what harassment is. Sorry, I'm going on a big rant over here.
No, it's cool. But I totally get it. When you sacrifice, when you're more worried about diversity and representation and all these things they've made up that just don't really matter, a lot of times the games will lose that immersion and that feeling to want to push and enjoy them. And yeah, it's this whole games have to be accessible to everyone thing just doesn't it will never make sense. It will never work. Like some games just aren't for certain people. That's why your grandma plays Candy Crush and you play Stalker.
I don't expect my grandmother to play Cyberpunk 2077, but the way they designed it, she can play it.
Right.
So it's not an underground game. I expected this really cool underground game designed for people who are into the real vibe of the Cyberpunk universe.
Well, I thought it was going to be the next level Witcher.
Outsourced.
I thought it was going to be them taking their Witcher work to the next stage.
I blame it on America. I heard they outsourced everything to America, so maybe there's that.
Sorry.
or to
Hey, I applied for a job writing for them, and they turned me down. Okay,
I know. Yeah, there's like America has the best and the worst.
Yeah.
You
Definitely.
A lot of examples of freedom of expression and everything comes from America, and it inspired the whole generation of Romanians to revolt against the communist regime. And now we have new generation of Romanians who bow down to this SJW politics, and then they want to bring back communism, but not just communism, but mixed in with I made a joke on my channel. I made up a word like the new system will be called some kind of trans furry Decepticon. I don't know, something. I forgot the expression, but it was ended something with Marxist. But it was all the things together, and Decepticon formed the Decepticon because they are deceptive as fuck. And and it's it's like Satan. Like I am Christian myself, but I don't come into people's faces, and I don't want to push the agendas of my belief system into the entertainment world, So people say that, for example, about white male Christians, that they are all hate speech, and they should be just silenced completely. Well, I'm one of them, and I never once made a friend uncomfortable that they are an atheist or that they believe in some. My best friend in real life is an atheist, and we get along fine, and we can have a barbecue. There's no problem. We can watch stuff together and play together. It's crazy, man. It's like people right now are shifting only to extremes, calling they are the hate speech warriors, man. Not I don't know.
No, you're right actually, because it comes from a place of hate. They hate us, man. They came into comics, video games, you name it, hating white straight men. We are the problem, and they're gonna do every tactic they can to push us out of things. The real end result, a redistribution of wealth and power in our country. Think about it. Give it 10 years. And then look at things, and then you'll see it's a redistribution, and it's reintroduced discrimination into America, which is, I thought that was against the rules, man. I thought we didn't accept that here.
I don't understand also, man. This didn't make any sense to me when I saw it first in 2015 or something. It's just incredible. It reached the point beyond belief for someone who looked at America as the land of freedom and opportunities and all this when I grew up. That's what okay, maybe nothing is, I'm not gonna say America was perfect, because it wasn't perfect, right? But if you were a hard worker and believed in your ideas and everything, there's tons of stories of people making it there, in the world of movies, in the world of I'm a ski instructor, so I watch sports and stuff. So in the sports in every department, man. In every department, you can do it. Even if the CEO department that the feminists are complaining about, there's no woman. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. Morgan Freeman, Susan Wojcicki, your favorite female CEO who censors YouTube again. But Morgan Freeman, you got that. He was also saying, as a black man, you can achieve your dreams, and he's living proof of it. And he was explaining this to his CNN reporter, that he was also black,
Yeah.
and he was saying, man, you can just like, okay, I know these are like old things, but and on the internet you're always supposed to come with new stuff, with new memes and new discussions. But I think
good point's a good point.
It's important to bring, exactly, the good point is a good point, and you have to bring it back because it's a battle, or it's a battle of ideas. It's the front lines of the battle of ideas, philosophy, the way you see life, everything. And the new generations, I didn't used to care about this stuff, man. I was just some guy listening to metal music, drinking and partying at when I was like in my teens and in my early 20s, just playing video games. I didn't want to be part of this. I didn't want to be part of this battle. But when you see a danger, when you see a train coming at you, I mean, you're gonna try to jump away from it, and if you see other people in front of you, you're gonna tell them to get off those tracks, and build another. If the track is broken, build another track.
Yeah, if they could have just been like for real about love and inclusion and just been nice and just made their own stuff, I wouldn't even notice them. But I went to that game symposium and I saw what they were about.
Why can't they
just set me on my path to figure out, to learn about it, what drives them, what is this, what are they really trying to achieve, everything. And I mean, it's a hell of a thing. And as a guy who loves our arts, I mean, how could I not speak up? I mean, this is a destruction of our art and our culture. They believe that everything about our country is about racism and oppression. They've turned identities into different classes, like under Marxism, and they're politicizing everything. They've turned our media into something we can't trust. I mean, this is like a black mold infection, man. It's hard to get out.
The philosophy is completely wrong, and to push certain people in front of other people because of their race and gender is racist and sexist. They are the ones being racist and sexist because people should be judged on their merits, and they all this, like, I'm pretty sure no one looks like, when you hire someone, you look at the performance. No one here, I mean, who still judges about these things? I don't know. I think they see an maybe there are some isolated cases, but that's it. You don't need to make a big boogeyman, and they need to be more. They're just not relaxed, man. Like I said,
no, they're not. They're fighting a war, man. There's only the fight. Well, I think that was the name of like Hillary Clinton's like thesis paper in college. It was called "There Is Only the Fight." And a lot of their ideology and the stuff that the Democrats have embraced on the radical side was all invented by Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky, he would never admit to being a communist, but that was his whole shtick. His whole shtick was be a communist. Don't tell anyone you're a communist. Put on a suit, get a haircut, work your way into their government, and start messing shit up. And Hillary Clinton worshipped him and wrote a thesis on him, and Obama wrote about him and was into him. Actually Obama was trained in the school of Saul Alinsky on how to basically protest things and attack things and push an agenda on things and how to intimidate people and stuff. And so that's why he would teach Saul Alinsky too. So he was a teacher of that philosophy. It's really interesting, but once you learn about Saul Alinsky, I mean, you learn a lot more about where these people are coming from and how it's about intimidation, how it's about attacking, how it's about pushing their way into things and then messing it up from the inside out, man. And that's what we're watching, getting the effects of. From that, we're getting a comic renaissance in indie art. Indie art's more exciting than ever. It's an amazing time. So, there's your silver lining.
Yeah, well, thank you for that insight. So some people might note down a few names or something. It's always good to know what you're talking about, and I am a person that doesn't know what they're talking about.
No, you do. You get it. I mean, that's so refreshing too, because it's a strange.
It's all connected.
I'm dating someone now she's amazing, but when I first met her, she had been indoctrinated a little bit. Somehow, it wasn't enough, though, luckily, to where I was able to talk to her. And then she started to realize, like I started showing her things and these light bulbs started going off above her head, and before I know it, like now she kind of knows it was all horse shit. Which is great, but usually when people are really far gone, I mean, you can't convince them. It's
that's
like a religion,
no, that's a good coincidence actually, because my girlfriend also had something like that happen to her. She had some kind of an awakening moment where she realized that it was all a deception, and she started researching more and more and seeing through the deception, and she's better at me of explaining the deception than I am. I should put her on the microphone sometimes.
Yeah, she'd be great. But that's great, man.
But you can follow her on their comic books live streams, which I've been on a few of them, talking about my soundtracks, because we do work together. You have commissioned me to make some soundtrack, a theme soundtrack for your comic. Maybe people don't understand this new concept of having music to the comic book. So how did you embrace it?
My comics, my art is okay. When I was growing up, I was drawing comics, but I was also a time where I was in bands and making flyers, and I fell in love with rock and roll flyer art, poster art for like how do you get people excited for? I love concert posters, I love the t-shirts, like from heavy metal, everything from the logo styles, just everything. I grew up loving that, and I think that had a profound influence on me. So it kind of comes together in my work. It's a lot of rock and roll, it's a lot of fun, and so I was just kind of like, let's blend the two. Why wouldn't I have a soundtrack to my comic? Of course I would. It just seemed like a given. And then, of course, I met Carl O'Rowe, became friendly with him, and I heard his Death Sworn thing, which I thought was perfect. Who made this? Vosto. I'm there. I got to find this guy and talk to him.
Well, that's really cool. So, because I actually got into this Comics Gate thing through Carl O'Rowe as well. Because
Nice.
I mean, I don't know if you got through Carl or just rephrase
I was just a bitter guy on my own.
But I got into it through Carl. My girlfriend went to a convention and she saw him there, and his books were popping, man, with this art like different to the other stuff. It was creative, and it created. It had
great energy,
impact, and great use of colors. And all this stuff, retro stuff, which I like. And, she got in the discussion with him. I'm surprised he was at the comic book, because I find out it's very hard for a Comics Gate artist to be not blacklisted, and they're not allowed to go to events. So anything you can say about that?
He got blacklisted. Poor Carl, good old Carl. He got going to conventions or blacklisted by stores that wouldn't carry his book, something like that. He had people come after him a little bit in the Irish comic community, as small as it may be. And so he had a publisher for Death Swarm back when I met him, and then soon after he was like, yeah, we've parted ways. It might have, I don't know, I don't want to say it for sure because my memory is a little fuzzy. It might have been because of the Comics Gate stuff, but I know people have hassled him about it at least. So yeah,
it's just how it is, man. You'll get.
I don't care. I'll make my own stuff.
You get put in the, everything. If a movement is classified as a hate speech group, no one will care to look if it's actually a hate speech group or not. It's just classified as that, and the company will just say, hate speech group. Okay, blacklist. I mean, it depends. I'm not gonna say everything is a megacorp. I'm not gonna say all companies are bad, because then I would sound like an SJW who is against all the corporations, and some of the companies are actually really good and constructive for society, but they will create the megacorps. The things that they hate the most, which is the megacorps, because they want to give more power to the government, they will end up creating the megacorps. They don't see it, but they are the end. They represent the end of themselves.
they just went to Coca-Cola and like Delta Airlines or something to ask them to like protest a voting law that was passed in Georgia after our election because our election was so blatantly, obviously not good. And so anyway, so states are trying to come up with laws, and these activists were like Coca-Cola, who they should hate, like the ultimate capitalist, like devil sugar water. They should hate it. Instead, they were like, save us, please protest this. And Coca-Cola was like, our statement is on this voting law, which we have no business talking about, is this. Here's our CEO or whatever. And then some weird guy from Europe was like, we at Coca-Cola don't like those laws very much. And it's so stupid. I mean, so yes, you're right. They're willing to side with no, they hate capitalism. Can't wait to side with it.
Can't wait to side with the biggest evil corporations that they should hate.
And another question: why do we still have May Day or whatever that day is for communists? Like, why does Coca-Cola run commercials for that? Like, did we change it to like International Women's Day or something, and which is also made up by socialists?
Is it the first of May? Are you talking about?
Or it's something like that. That communist.
Yeah,
holiday?
That's like the Yeah, we have it here. It's the 1st of May, the Workers' Day, apparently.
Okay, but like, why do we have that? Get rid of it in America.
Yeah, I didn't know. Well, I guess it's international now. International communism for everyone.
Get it out of here!
I'm not. Look,
what are we doing?
I'm not the biggest capitalist. Like if the audience thinks that I'm on the paradigm, like. I'm not all the way.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the biggest I don't care. Like okay, I do hate myself. Big corporations that do evil shit and they do stuff that is unhealthy for me and for my brothers and for everyone. Right. Of course I'm against that, but I support things like the rights to have a property or the right to make your company, or the right to blah blah blah, and these are good things. They are healthy in this society. I would love to have an anarchist state where we wouldn't have identity cards or anything, but it's not possible, in my opinion, at least. There are some people who believe in this kind of utopia that we would all get along, but I think it's all gonna turn out into Mad Max type of shit if that happens. So I don't know. This is the best thing we got. This capitalism stuff. The communism.
Well, does it maybe?
No. Okay. It sucks. Of course, it sucks that big companies pay politicians to represent them and modify laws so that they can sell some horrible thing that is bad to your health on the market. It's horrible. I hate that too. I hate a lot of things. I hate, for example,
drug companies.
Pharmaceutical industry, all this shit that we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube now.
What does that tell you?
I don't know, man. But okay, I won't go the other extreme.
Who's in power?
Here's the thing: forests. I will bring up forests. So, for example, if someone does some poaching in the forest or something that is bad, or pollution or something, that's great. We should combat it. We are combating it.
Of course.
But we're not gonna go to the other extreme where we say that all humans are bad and we shouldn't drive cars and we shouldn't build houses and we shouldn't own property and all this garbage that they say, man. It's not realistic.
It's extreme. I know, but they really think we're gonna get it right someday, and they don't understand our history and basic economics for whatever reason.
If you're gonna be an activist, be a proper one, man. Be reasonable.
Yeah. And also, don't sign up to have all your freedom taken away thinking it's going to make the world a better place, okay? You can't just give the government all the power. Things don't get solved well by them. Have you ever gone to get an ID, like here in America, like gone to the license agency? Like, it's horribly run. How do you like our postal service? Do you like the way they run that? Like, this stuff isn't necessarily run the best. And so I don't want them running everything else. Okay, that's it. You got to let people deal with the problems. You can't just throw money every time with the government at it.
No, it's just a vicious circle, and it's just gonna promote fake industries that are just gonna battle each other. Like, I did a video recently exposing a media conglomerate that was all, like, actually from you. You inspired me to make a video, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
You posted something on your Twitter. Okay. You posted an article or retweeted something from someone else that was posting an article about... there was, in this article from Kotaku, that was complaining about characters in... about woman main characters that they're not satisfied with because they're not... they're just white women. They want to have trans people of all races and... okay, it's, again, I will say it's not bad to have those things, multi-race, but it has to be sincere, and not in game franchises that have established for having white male characters or, whatever. Anyway, it was an article that was written with so much hate, because that's also what kind of triggered me. It was so hateful, man. You could feel the emotion for the article. It wasn't an arguments-based article. So then that...
It was emotion, that's right.
It was like, it made me think, like, okay, if this article is like this, then let's see what other articles they have. Of course, they had similar articles. And then let's see who owns them and see what else they own. And it turns out they owned other indoctrination propaganda outlets, because I can't call them otherwise, such as they had, for example... the Root, who claims to be representing black people problems, and it was
a radical, messed up brag, man.
Yeah, they own that. GMO Media,
of course.
Who
owns it?
Geo Media, and Geo Media owns Kotaku, and they own the Root, which
who owns Geo Media?
Geo Media owns it's fundraised by the Great Hill Partners, who just say that they finance grassroots, I don't know, powerful platforms that are developing or something generic like that.
Okay.
And in their description, they said that this GMO Media represents fearless journalism, provoking comedy and ideas. Well, it is provoking, I tell you that. But in the wrong ways. And they also own a feminist website, which is called Jezebel, which owns the name of a demon, the demon of deceit, of course. Like in the Bible, it's the woman who is very deceitful and leads the people of Israel astray. By the way, if anyone cares about this, it's just a coincidence. And of course, all these things. The Root had hateful things like calling all of America racist, and the Jezebel was all about, had articles like cancel culture doesn't exist and everyone who talks about it is an attention seeker, and
gaslighting,
promoting trans people, books written about transsexuals, which is no problem, but the book was all about trans misogyny and all this stuff. Like they were complaining about this stuff in the book.
Dividing up our society. Do you ever wonder why they divide us up? Oh, sorry, keep going. Do your thing.
No, well, there was these three outlets, and they had another thing that they owned was a sports website, which is called Deadspin. And I went on that one, and it's all about white privilege, this guy in NFL. So do you see?
What's this in their sports?
Do you see how...
even though isn't the NFL mostly black though? Like
I don't know. So
I think it is. So is the NBA. I mean, come on.
They put stuff in sports that people don't want to see in sports. They put stuff in fashion that people don't want to see in fashion. They put stuff in black people outlet that most of black people probably don't feel represented by it.
Truth. It's radical shit.
Yeah, and then you have Kotaku, which is the gaming thing. They own a bunch of other things, but like 3 more things, but I didn't check those because I already have enough evidence to prove that this is a deceitful media conglomerate. And like this conglomerate, there are other conglomerates, my friend, and bigger ones and more powerful ones.
Just
so
one.
all that happens is you have these big conglomerates that you can prove very easily by just looking a little bit and following the money with our search engines. Use the tools of the devil to expose the devil.
Of course.
And
truth.
It's easy to see that. Of course, there's people there's media outlets that are getting funded by evil capitalists, and there's that stuff. So then there, again, I'm not saying, when I say evil capitalists, I mean the evil not the, because there's good capitalists that I respect,
of course.
But yeah, there's that. And so then what's ends up is we all, if we consume these things, we waste time, energy, and our souls, man. Like when you read that article from Kotaku, you think someone wrote it, but no one wrote that. It was written by the power of money and influence to create nothing. So you are reading nothing. So you are wasting your time, as a person who combats the messages in that.
You're just being miseducated at most, and at least you're just reading soulless drivel. When I read that article, I remember thinking, I noticed that the person who wrote it was a Black woman. And I noticed when I was reading it, she was writing it in this kind of overly by the way, I'm Black. You could tell by the way I talk. Like it had that sassy Black woman thing to it, which felt really forced and fake. And I remember just thinking this isn't a Black woman really telling us what she thinks. This is an activist laying out their script or whatever. This is not
from the gender studies school.
They claim to be we're advocating for Black voices, especially Black women, to be able to say what they think. And then I get to read an article in a video game thing of what a Black woman thinks, and it's just political drivel. It's not really what a lot of Black female gamers think. You know what I'm saying? It's just politics and like you said, influence, power, money.
And they were probably taught that philosophy from a white guy communist philosopher or something. So it's not really their mentality. And then there's the people who own them. Since they are so against white male capitalists, why are they owned by white male capitalists?
Because they made up the concept of allies. They're not friends, we're allies. And then at some point, we'll toss you out too and take your position.
Yeah, I looked at the founders list of it's all the thing that they hate the most. Yeah. So in the end, I reached up a paradox that didn't make sense to me. So sometimes I wonder why I make these videos, because it's all a big ass paradox. I can't make sense out of it. It's like the zone. It's an anomaly in Chernobyl, except on a planetary scale now. We're living on a wrong planetary parallel version, crazy version of the world, man.
That's what it does feel like that a lot now. But I always try to remind myself that every generation before us had its own crazy to deal with. And it's just up to us to still keep the light going while they try to make everything dark and just mess up the world.
I'm doing what I can to make a positive impact, not through just talking crap on the internet, because I mostly don't. On Twitter, I don't really make any political statements or anything. I do make some. I make some here on this channel, which is a thing that I love doing, to express myself.
Definitely.
When I discovered synthwave, I thought it was made by people who are nostalgic about the 80s and want to bring that kind of mentality and vision to 2020 and 2021 now, I guess. But I'm saying when I discovered it in 2017, and I experienced it first in the video game Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which was a really good video game, by the way, made in 2013. I already said that. But all the other great things were made in 2013, and
See, I grew up in the 80s, so synthwave was like, oh, like I'm home. Like right when I heard it, I was like, it's nice to hear people
I got into that
sound alive.
I got into that genre, and I guess it got corrupted as well, because half of it is all like SGWs, or
really?
yeah, that's why really. It wasn't in the beginning like that, but it got more into
like that.
It just gets like that.
There's a chick on YouTube, her sewing circle. She had like a crocheting group, got infiltrated by SJWs. And then everyone started fighting.
Yeah.
And the needles were probably stabbed places. And the whole
you
thing
are
was
bullied.
over,
You're bullied out of it if you start.
She was bullied out of it. Yeah.
That's what happens.
These are the new bullies. I had
I don't mind. I don't mind bullies on video games in general, because I know that bullying is innocent and it's just you'll say fuck you, all that stuff. You just swear at each other, but it's all the fun. It's not
part of the game. Yeah.
It's not. But these people are destroying our lives anyway.
Bullies. Yeah, they're the new bullies.
But this is real bullying. It messes with your human rights. It's the worst.
Yeah, messes with your life. It's not right. You guys are wrong. That's why you invented cancel culture. They're not. Their ideas got so radical they couldn't back them up with facts anymore. Right. It's all
and then they all end up looking the same, even if they claim to be for diversity. I know someone who worked for an education company, and even there they said that a glass was too masculine and they had to redesign it. So it ends up again the shapes of objects, man.
So bizarre. I hope our art historians can understand this crap and like write intelligently about it, and write about how it doesn't work with art. It almost is the antithesis of art. You're degrading art into propaganda level messaging over something that inspires us, and that's the part that I hate the most. Good stories that we all love, like movies that make lots of money and everybody enjoys. Nobody cares about the race or gender of anyone in those. They're just fun, and we can relate to what's inside. Identity doesn't matter. They're trying to get us to think identity matters and teach us to value things based on
their new propaganda gets people like me, like a white male Christian, to be triggered and angry about those things, which I wouldn't be triggered in the first place if society was normal and if it wasn't pushed that hard into the propaganda and into the education and into all these departments, to the point where I accidentally end up in hating groups, and I don't want to put my energy into hate. And it's really
who's got time for that, man?
So
to make stuff.
And besides, look, you guys who make stuff. I make stuff. I make music. I don't. Like, you guys make stuff, and I looked at your art. I looked at you guys in Comicsgate, and you have very diverse art. Like, they can't complain. They can't complain because you have that. Well, of course, there's a lot of women with big boobs, but that's in a way it's like we all like women, but I guess not all, because they're I'm not going in there, but what I'm saying is maybe that was also accentuated a bit more, this aspect, in a reply to all those SJWs who said you can't have women with boobs on that movie, it's offensive. Why you don't put a bunch of fat Ghostbusters chicks and make a movie about that?
It's degrading our humanity and our art, so that we'll turn it. Hopefully the culture will shift to that as what they want, and then we'll all be good little socialists who can't wait for the government to control everything. I think that's kind of the end goal here.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready for the even next version of that, which is a bit crazy to think about, but there will be a, how you said earlier, they are trying to create their own heaven on earth, which ends up being hell. That's actually, it's true at a metaphorical level, but I think it's true at the physical level, because soon want to be immortal and like be over, because they hate God so much. They will want to make this like technology, if possible, to upgrade their whole, to upload their consciousness in the machine, like you see in cyberpunk movies and concepts and stuff like that, and put them all. But imagine if you have that kind of future, and it sounds great, like limitless possibilities, except if it's limited possibilities, because imagine what they're doing now with the internet. It was fine at first, it was pure, a land of freedom, and then it ended up a land of censorship. You think a virtual world that you will advertise that limitless possibility will not be corrupted? You'll probably get in there and not be allowed to do anything, and like to get deleted or something if you have the wrong mindset. Even with the augmentation, starting with the augmented, there's a really powerful scene in the Deus Ex Mankind Divided, where the title Mankind Divided, kind of prophetic in a way. They have a scene in that video game, and there's a guy who just, because he starts exposing some stuff, he just gets disabled from the inside through his augmentations,
hooked up
with the electricity. Like you see his hands starting to shiver and twitching and stuff as he's saying stuff, and then he just collapses. Like, that's why I fight for independence of your body and independence of your mind. As soon as you mess with your mind, they're gonna want you to upgrade your mind to be able to keep up with the speed that the machines think with. So they're gonna get you into this whether you want it or not, to be able to be as performance as the machine, and to be able to keep getting hired at jobs and stuff like that. And that's how they got you, man. Just like now, how you got the virus, you have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't, you're out of the system, man. But I don't necessarily want to put you in that discussion, because it's
of course, that's cool.
It can it's but that's where I come from, and I appreciate very much for you to participate with me in this discussion. And
thank you for having me.
But we're not finished yet. Of course, I want you to talk a little bit about your comic book and your project and whatever you want to say about it, man, because we're open-minded over here.
All right. Monster MG is about a fallen surgical prodigy who ends up becoming Doctor of the Local Monsters, and he kind of isn't enjoying it too much. He kind of wants out. He's got this hot, sexy as it gets surgical assistant, Heidi. Yeah, she's invisible, but she's got it kicking underneath those scrubs. And they get into these crazy adventures, man. But this is really the story of Wyatt, Dr. Black, kind of finding his place in the world and figuring things out, and finding out that maybe it's not so bad to have to take care of these things that try to eat him every other week after all. And it's been really well received. I mean, we've almost made 100K. All the reviews have been positive. People love how much you get for your money. It's just been a really great, amazing run. It's been like years in the making. I've been working on this forever, man. And since then, I've gotten a lot of jobs. I'm moving on. I'm growing a comic career. People are saying it's one of the better looking and better written books in CG, which really makes me happy. It's in a lot of people's top 3s. I'm so stoked for that. So I feel like my work's finally paying off. If people want to check it out, it's on Indiegogo still. So
I will definitely put it on in the description for people who want to check it out. There's a lot of style to be seen here. The colors there's very good, very interesting color palettes, very interesting characters, very natural kind of poses for the characters. It's not, nothing looks dull. The main character itself has some craziness to it, and you see it's not just in the writing of the character, but it manifests through how the character poses in the stances with all the crazy hand gestures and whatnot, and that's what I really like. And I made a soundtrack for it, thinking about this character and thinking about his crazy van and all that, even though I didn't have much information, but I get the vibe. The vibe is there. It's like, it's the same like you're talking about, if you're putting a Terminator concept in someone's face. Like, you know what the Terminator is and how kind of what it's about. It's just it turned out to shit in time, but and the new writers of Terminator don't know how to lay out the Terminator correctly from an aesthetic and vibes point of view. But you know, most people know what it should be about if they if they're passionate about this stuff. So
your soundtrack kicked ass, man. Thank you for that again. It came out great. You obviously understood it. Yeah, I was just listening to that the other day, actually.
I was imagining a theme for the sidekick character as I was doing that theme, but I didn't end up. I wanted to like give you like a bonus because I liked the idea. And a lot of the times when I work for comic books, that's like cool. I get ideas more than that one main theme or whatever.
Right.
I don't see.
That's cool.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just once you feel the universe, you can just get entrenched into it and live in that. You can live in that forever and just manifest and find more stuff. And when you think that you have nothing else to think about, there's no such thing, because when you go to sleep or something, a new idea pops in your brain. Here you go, another thing to think about. You know?
It's true. Yeah, every time, man. That's what's so great about these new worlds we're creating. We get to keep them going. People get excited about them and then keep up with them. I'm going to do more Monster MD and everyone's demanding it. Like, I want to keep this world growing, man, and make it bigger and more badass than ever.
Yeah, and people need to understand that whenever you invent a department that, you know, bites at you and says, no, you can't put that there, you know, your idea, your idea, they like attack it, you know, and then and you have to dodge and slalom. And it's really annoying, and it can damage your creative flow, and it's just not the same. But it's good that you guys have this Comicsgate movement, which promotes the idea of just getting lost in your world. And some people are not really interested. I've noticed some people in Comicsgate, they're not really interested to do the political battle side of thing, or you know, they're not really into it, but they just want
customer.
Exactly.
You know, make a high quality book, quality product, and reject this ideology that's eating comics right before our eyes. Yeah, and help us row forward, make something big, something that makes noise. You know?
Yeah, I hope so. There are some very high quality resonating projects in the comic scale. Right now, for my individual soundtracks that I'm creating, I only will commission people from Comicsgate, because because the art is just so living and breathing, and it feels real, and it's really nice, you know. Maybe there's some crappy stuff out there, but I've seen the stuff that resonates.
And there's in any group of people working together, you know, or making things, there's always going to be like the standouts and the ones that aren't as great. You know, we're all at different levels. Yeah, you know, I think this is helping people turn into better artists in general, which is great.
The stuff that shines really shines, you know. And of course, I don't agree with the people who do exaggerated harassment of other individuals. I believe the power of arguments, but is the thing that we should use, not calls to violence and stuff like that. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of the time when they call something harassment, it's not really harassment, because they have all these definitions for words that don't really synchronize with reality. So that's all I wanted to take a look at today, I guess, my friend.
Cool.
Thank you very much for being on the stream. And,
thank you, man. This has been a blast.
Yeah, man.
I could talk to you forever, I bet, about all this stuff.
And no doubt, I am the number one guy in the conspiracy land.
To be continued, then.
Not a cookie. I don't see myself as a cookie conspiracy guy. I try to see myself a more realistic investigator, like I proved earlier with the geo media stuff, and you know, I look into real things, and But thank you very much for being on the stream. I mean, not on the stream because we're not live, but on this amazing podcast, my friends. Yeah. Great discussion.
Great discussion. Thank you for having me.
Everyone, look at the descriptions below and check out his project and back it up if you
support indie comics.
Yeah.
Truth is a virus. Get it out there, everybody. Make it happen.
Yes, my friends. This was Vlad signing out. Peace.
Later.